All praises to the horizon. Peace, wealth, and wisdom. It's the wise one here, Mr. Salisu. And today I want to do this video titled The Djed and the Djinn. Now, in the Middle Eastern lands amongst the Arabs, you have that word Djinn or Djinn. And to the Arab people, this word is to describe a specific kind of spirit. When I say spirit, I am speaking of the energy within the living. When the living dies, so the energy still remains. Now, living people all have different personalities. And so, therefore, these spirits of these living people, when they die, will all be different. And so this is why I say the Djinn is a specific kind of spirit, meaning they are all labeled according to their kind, so to say. As I said, you have many different people in this life. We all have different personalities. And so the Djinn is a certain kind of spirit or personality, so to say. Now, Djinn are referred to as your bad spirits. In perspective, I don't want to say bad, being as though you guys are still kind of entangled into the duality. You haven't rose above it to understand there is no good and bad, but you have what is good on the bad side and you have what is good on the good side. You have what is bad on the bad side and what is bad on the good side, meaning you have the balance between them both. And so the Djinn would be your lesser spirits or your lower leveled spirits, meaning they wouldn't be your heavenly spirits. When I say heavenly, I mean your highest. When I say highest, I mean up. I'm not necessarily speaking rank, but up. I'll explain why. And so, as I said, you have the Djinn. Genie, this is more like plural. Some may classify it as feminine to Djinn, but truly it's just plural. Now, the Djinn, which is a specific kind of spirit, resides in the realms that we know as the Djed. Now, I'm sure many of you guys will say the Djed is a symbol in ancient Egypt, you know, text or writings. And the Djinn is more of an Arab thing. And so I want you guys to grasp, Egypt is closer to the Middle East than Africa, which is a part of. And so they go together. Now, as I said, the Djinn belong to the Djed, which is a realm in a world, meaning a place in a world. Now, as I always teach you guys, all worlds are body. The reason I say that is because you have a body, and so you know all the parts of your body. In regards to your inner body, which is, you know, what most of these texts are speaking of, not your inner body, so to say, but all worlds are body. And so the texts are usually speaking of the life within, meaning we are the life within a body. All the life that's experienced in life is within a body, living its life in its own body. And so I want you guys to grasp, all worlds are bodies. And so you have a spine. Your spine is the spirit realms of that body, meaning when all the cells die within the body, all the microscopic life within the body, when it passes, the spine is the realms where the energy within these vessels go. Meaning we all live within this body. We are the cells within it. When we pass on or die, the energy within us, which is our spirits, will return to the spinal track within this world, our body we live in. Now you have 7 parts to the spine, or this spiritual realms in the body. In science, you have 5 parts of the spine. The reason for this is because they do not count the central brain, which is right on top of the spine, and they do not break the thoracic part of the spine into 2, upper thoracic and lower. And so, as I said, you have 7 parts of the spine. And these spirits, within the world, will all fall in line in their place. In our body, we call them nervous system cells. These are the cells that are within your spine. These are truly, the spirits of the dead within your body, because the cells within your body, they die. Its energy, which is spirit, and the consciousness, does not perish, but it goes to its place in the spine. And so now in this world that we live in, which is a body, when I say world, I am not speaking of Earth, but I am speaking of the whole solar system. And Earth is just the 3rd chakra of this solar system, which is a body. We are the cells within it. And so the Djinn reside in the realms known as the Djed. Now, in ancient Egypt, they show images of the Djed. It is known as a symbol. It is not known as a real physical place. It's not even seen as a real thing. It's more like symbolical of something more deep. And so I want you guys to grasp, the Djed is not a symbol, but it is a symbol or a representation of a literal place that looks exactly like the symbol. And so, as I said, all worlds are body. And so the Djed is the coccyx bone. The coccyx bone is the first part of the spine to develop in a developing body, which is a world. All bodies start as embryos, fetuses, and, they start in the womb. There's no spine in the beginning, and so the coccyx, which is known as the Djed to the ancient Egypts, is your first part of the spine. It's the first part to develop. Now, as I said, the spirits of the dead in the world reside in the spine, in their place, according to their personality. And so, of course, you have the central brain part of the spine. And so, of course, this is for your heavenly, or your... Let's just stick with good for now. As I said, you guys are not fully in the understandings of the duality. But you have your good and bads in both. But let's just say heaven, which is your central brain area in the world. Well, this is where your good heavenly spirits go. Your heavenly, goodly personalities that have passed on in the world. Then you have the cervical part of the spine. This is your neck area. And so this is a little, it's no different than, central brain. Just a little less. Not as good. Not as heavenly. Then, of course, you have your upper thoracic spine. And so this is your in-between. Not good, but not bad. Closer to good. Then you have your lower thoracic spine. Of course, this is the chest area still, but the lower parts. And so these spirits there, they're not good or bad either, but, you know, they're closer to bad. Upper thoracic's more closer to good. Then, of course, you have your lumbar spine. This is your abdomen area. Of course, we're speaking the spine, so this is the back. You have your lumbar spine. You can say these are for your bad spirits, your bad personalities. But they're not horrible. You know, they're not evil, you know. But they're just, you know, bad. Disturbed. After that, you have your sacrum part of the spine. You can say this is your divine parts of the spine. You can say these are your spirits that will never manifest into body, but they will always hold their place in that sacrum. Meaning they will always live in the spirit world, never fully manifesting out. Then you have your coccyx. Of course, the coccyx aligns with the testes. This is where your sperm cells are. Your sperm cells are your dead spirits. Meaning people say spirits can't die. Sperm cells are your dead spirits. Meaning if you need physical proof, there you have it. You have many nervous system cells. The sperm cells, which are, you know, at the bottom of the spine, you know, the bottomless deep. These would be your spirits that have died. And so it's a deep thing. When you guys say spirits don't die, what you truly mean to say is consciousness doesn't die. So you have mind, spirit, and body. Mind doesn't die, but mind can become washed or blank, you know, renewed, so to say. But body and spirit, they can perish. The spirit, this being, you know, a longer matter, so to say, but all can perish except for mind. Mind cannot perish, but it can blend or, you know, become blank. And so the Djed, which is the coccyx, is your realms of the dead spirits. We're not talking about the spirits of the dead. The whole spine, all the spirits in there are spirits of the dead. But we're talking about spirits who are actually dead. And this is what the Djed is. This is why it's pronounced Djed. And so the Djed, those realms is over your dead spirits. You can say these spirits are your most hostile, most dominant, you know, most chaotic of all the spirits in the spinal tract. In ancient Kemetic times, this was known as a menti, or the hall of a menti. This being the spinal tract, where the spirits of the dead are. In other cultures, it's known as the Akashic records. Meaning, your spine is like your personal book of records. It is where all the dead within your body has gone since the day you conceived. And so the spinal tract is the realms in a world where the spirits of the dead are. And the Djed, which is the coccyx, is the bottoms of these realms, the pits of it. And so when you hear the word Djinn, spelled D-J-I-N-N, it is speaking of the spirits in that realm of a world. Meaning the dead spirits, the coccyx spirits. You know, these are the spirits that kind of are summoned out, you know, into the world in the past. As I said, when this world we was living in was first developing, no different than you in the womb. So it started, you know, as an embryo, then fetus, so on and so forth. I'm not even sure. Did I say that in the right order? It doesn't matter. The point is, you start as an egg cell, develop into a body. And so during that time in the womb, the spine begins to develop. And this is a matter of the cells within that body cells being just a smaller life within that world, starting to die. And so from the moment you conceive, you know, smaller life is starting to develop inside this egg cell, which you are. And it starts dying while you're still in womb, developing. Meaning while the body's developing, cells are dying. Cells are being born. And so correlate that to this world we live in. When it's developing, organisms are being born and they're dying while this world is still taking shape and form in the womb. And so I want you guys to grasp the first spirits to die, you know, your most ancient spirits outside of the sacrum area would be in that coccyx, the Djed realms of the spine. And so these are the spirits that were being summoned in the past. The spirits in, you know, that realm of the spine. Of course, you didn't have the other parts of the spine as of yet. As, you know, more people or cells in the world die. So you get more spine. And so I want you guys to grasp. You have your 7 levels of the spine, or your 7 levels of that realm of the dead. And the Djinn belong to the Djed part of those realms. Now, when you're dealing with summoning these spirits, so you have the symbols associated with each spirit. The symbol associated with each spirit is a matter of the spine vertebrae, meaning the symbols are basically descriptions or representations of individual vertebrae, individual vertebrae in the spine. And so, as I said, each spirit has a symbol associated to it. This is the reason for it. Now, of course, as I said, the spine is where your dead spirits in the world are. And so don't get confused when I say each symbol represents a vertebrae, an individual vertebrae of the spine. And behind that vertebrae, so to say, or that spirit, you have legions of other nervous system cells, which are spirits of the dead. And so this is why certain spirits, when you're dealing with spirit summoning practices, you have one king spirit, and then that spirit will have legions of other spirits beneath it or under it. It's a matter of the vertebrae and the nervous system cells. It's a matter of the individual vertebrae and the many nervous system cells assigned to that vertebrae. And so this is the reason why the summoner had to know the symbol of the specific spirit. Now the spine, of course, this has to do with up and down. And so this is your north and south, meaning your sacrum part of the spine, the bottom parts of the spine, this is your south. The top parts of the spine, your cervical, your central brain, this is north. Your thoracic and your lumbar spine, this is west and east. And so I want you guys to grasp the conscious, which rules over the body, meaning with your body, you are the conscious that wakes up and goes to sleep and controls the outer body. And so I'm speaking of that. When the conscious rises and sets, or, go to sleep and wake up, it is rising and falling down the spine, past these vertebrae. And so what we see as the rising and setting sun is truly just the spirits in a specific part of the spine. Of course, when you see the sun changing color throughout the day, meaning morning is not the same color as afternoon, afternoon not the same color as evening, evening is not the same color as night. When I say color, I'm speaking of the sky. When you see the sun changing color, what this is, you know, the spirits are the nervous system cells within their part of the spine, and so they all have different personalities or emotion. And so color is associated with emotion. And this is why it appears that way to us. I'm saying that so you can reference that in understanding that all worlds are a body and we do live in a world. And so many of the things you guys read are real. It's just a matter of not understanding how the body or the biology of the body is to understand this world and those stories that are being read. And so now that's the symbol. Of course, each spirit or entity is associated with a time of day. And so, as I said, you have each spirit's symbol, which is a matter of the vertebrae. And then you have the time of day associated with these spirits. So when you're summoning the spirits, or someone who is a summoner is summoning the spirit, so they have the symbol for the spirit, which I said is the vertebrae, an individual vertebrae, and then you have the time of day for summoning that spirit. And so as I just said, the spine has to do with the time of day, meaning the conscious rises and sets up and down the spine. The 24 individual vertebrae, which are your 7 cervical, your 12 thoracic, and your 5 lumbar, those are your 24 individual vertebrae. Of course, the sacrum are fused vertebrae bones, meaning they're fused together, and so are the coccyx. But the cervical, thoracic, and lumbar, they're individuals. And so these are your 24 hours of the day, are your 24 Armadale spirits, and the legions beneath them. And so now you understand why the symbol is associated and why the time of day is. Now let's get into the blood, why the blood is shed for summoning the spirits. The reason for that, of course, like I said, all worlds are bodies. And so you have the cells within the blood of the body, meaning the blood cells. They carry messages from the spinal tract to the rest of the cells in the body. Meaning with your body, of course, you have your nervous system cells. And then you have your normal cells in the body. Your blood cells are like a medium, your red blood cells. They're like a medium between the immune system cell or the nervous system cells in the spine and the cells in the rest of the body. So it's the same in our world. The lights you see associated with the sun when it's rising and setting, because the sun isn't one light, but those are your nervous system cells. We are your regular cells. And then you have, you know, what is known as your blood cells, which is the medium between the two, meaning your blood is the medium between these two. And so the shedding of the blood is for that purpose. It is a connection between those two. Now, if the symbol is associated with the vertebrae, and you have the symbol, and you also do it at the specific time, of course, with the shedding of the blood, this is how you're summoning that entity to that symbol. It will become bound to that symbol, mistaking it for, you know, its place in the spine or its vertebrae. And so that's what the blood is for, the shedding of, you know, fresh blood. Then, of course, you have the smells, so to say. You know, your extra little props. Your incense, sage. It may be a specific perfume smell. The reason for this is because smells are chemical. And so they will chemically react with the brain, no different than specific drugs. And so, as I said, the spine and the brain is the whole of the spine. And so, any chemical reaction in regards to the brain is a matter of the spine cells and the brain cells kind of becoming unbalanced, or, you know, making one emerge out more than the other. And so it's a deep thing I want you guys to grasp. This is what the smell is for. It's almost like drug, or, you know, to stimulate the mind, you know, to get the mind, body, you know, the five senses all in tune, are intact with, you know, what you're doing, which is summoning this entity. And so it's a very deep thing. I'll come back and go in a little more in depth when I get indoors. I'm outdoors. It's starting to get crowded in this area. I'm throwing my focus off. So I'll come back another time and go more in depth. Hopefully none of you guys try and do these things, because they're real, and being as though you don't know how to do it in full, you have to grasp you are going to afflict yourself and others. So I'm only telling you guys this so that you know. Be mindful of many things you may not understand. You may sign off as fake, but it's just a matter of your understanding and someone being able to explain it to you the accurate way. And so this whole topic goes more deep, because these things are still taking place. Meaning you still have spirits in the spine, and you still have people summoning them. The problem is, most people doing it in today's times, they truly don't know what they're doing. So they're afflicting whole environments, so to say, whole areas, whole families. Y'all don't know who in y'all families playing around with these things. Most people don't say. They just, you know, mess around with things, and if they don't see any results, then they probably wouldn't mention it. But when you're dealing with the spirit world, you won't see results how you expect, because you're seeing things from a physical perspective. And so it's going to slowly manifest around you like air turns into cloud. Next thing you know, it's so thick it's just raining. So be mindful of what I'm saying. As I said, I'll come back and do a part 2, going more in depth on the spirits in the spine, as well as the Djed, known to the Mayans as Zabalba, known to the Greeks as Barbalo. But I'll go more in depth. Hopefully you guys are well and in good spirits. It's the wise one, Mr. Solace, who said, peace, wealth, and wisdom.